Some argue that establishing a Palestinian state is essential for peace. However, you both have stated that the Palestinian Authority and Mahmoud Abbas, his leader, pose a serious threat to Israel and the Jewish people. Why do you see this threat as so significant, and what are your views on whether a Palestinian state should be or should not be accepted?
So who is this question for?
Francisco, now you go first.
Oh, okay. So, well, the reason the Palestinian Authority is so dangerous is that the Palestinian Authority was created with the express purpose of murdering the Israeli Jews in genocide. It was the Palestinian Authority is really PLO, Fatah, or the PLO, if you will, but the controlling organ of the PLO is Al-Fatah. And Al-Fatah was created by Haj Amin al-Husseini, who was the founding father of the Arab-Palestinian movement. Husseini is also one of the top leaders of the German Nazi final solution. And so what Husseini did after World War II, he spent the war in Nazi-occupied Europe. He was made a top Nazi by Adolf Hitler. He was given his own bureaucracy. It was called Bureau des Gros Mufti. And he was very active in Nazi propaganda and also in the administration of the death camp system with Adolf Eichmann. So this is the creator of Al-Fatah. Al-Fatah then swallows the PLO between 1968 and 1970. And since then, the PLO is basically Al-Fatah. They are the ones who call the shots. So Al-Fatah, an organization created by the butcher of the European Jews, Haj Amin al-Husseini, was created obviously with the purpose of continuing the mass killing in Israel. But if you needed any more details to diagnose the intentions of PLO Fatah, you could just look at what they did after in the post-war, because PLO Fatah was responsible for the Iranian jihadi revolution of 1979. They spent the 1970s in Lebanon, and they had training camps in Lebanon where they were arming and training Ayatollah Khomeini's guerrillas, who are the ones who fought the Iranian revolution. And after Khomeini was installed in power, PLO Fatah was invited over to Tehran. Yasser Arafat and Mahmoud Abbas were invited to Tehran to celebrate with Khomeini the triumph of the revolution. And they announced from Tehran that PLO Fatah and Iran would work together to exterminate the Israeli Jews. They announced that in public, right? Now, most people don't know any of this because the media has cooperated to keep it submerged. But it's not exactly a secret. After World War II, there were two entire books published on Haj Amin al-Husseini, one by Maurice Perlman, another one by Shechtman, I forget his first name. And they detailed everything that he had done. At the time, immediately after the war, Husseini was still world famous. People knew what he had done. But then, after 1968, more or less, precisely when Al-Fatah was taking over the PLO, all mention of Husseini was practically erased, and the next generations never learned of him. The same thing happened with PLO Fatah's role in the Iranian jihadi revolution. In 1979, the role of PLO Fatah in that revolution was explained on the front page of the New York Times when the revolution happened. But just a few years after that, again, it was entirely submerged, and academics and the media collaborated to never mention this again. So by the time the Oslo process got to bring PLO Fatah into Israel, almost nobody remembered any of it. And so the media academics were able to set Westerners, Israeli Jews and diaspora Jews, on the claim that supposedly had changed its stripes and it would no longer be a terrorist organization, and it wanted to negotiate peace in exchange for territory, etc. Of course, is a lie, but the context of the peace process is that this organization, which is obviously allied with Iran because it created Iran, was given militarily strategic territory of the Jewish state. Judea, Samaria, and Gaza are militarily strategic. So we now have a terrorist. Yeah, we now have a terrorist group dedicated to the extermination of the Israeli Jews, sitting with limited autonomy, but sufficient autonomy to do great damage on militarily strategic territory of the Jewish state. I can think of no greater attack against the Jewish state, which was created to protect Jews from genocide, than to bring an organization allied with Iran, which wants to repeat the Holocaust and descended from the original Holocaust, into strategic territory of the Jewish state. So I think we have to be very worried about the Palestinian Authority, and it's one of the main reasons to think that we are in grave danger of a new Holocaust.
Okay. Now, thanks, Francisco. Edwin, what are the threats you see from the Palestinian Authority and from a Palestinian state, and what are your positions on its establishment as a state?
Well, thank you for those remarks from Francisco. I'd like to go back a little bit and just say that whatever Francisco said in his first comment about the coming Holocaust was profound. It was very deep, should be considered an important warning. But one of the most important things he said was every time they get over it, they say, okay, we're done. That's it. We're safe. Even when the Jews escaped from Egypt and they crossed over, they danced and said, okay, everything is good now. We're going to the land of milk and honey, and everything's going to be okay. And this causes me to address your question. What would be the future, the benefit, the threat of a Palestinian state on the West Bank and potentially adjacent to Gaza? Here's the reply. Forget about it. It's not going to happen. It cannot happen. There was a period of self-delusion, which is part of what Francisco was talking about. Okay, we can get over this now. Self-delusion, where the Jews of Israel, along with leadership, mistakenly thought they were in Midtown Manhattan instead of in the Middle East. And so, yes, they cut this deal with the Palestinians, so-called land for peace. However, despite all of the PA's screaming that Oslo is no longer in effect, despite their unwillingness to agree to, as Yasser Arafat refused, even 102% of a land swap. Whatever happened on October 7th was the final act of fate. And there is no Palestinian state to be established on the burnt bodies of babies. The Palestinians, wherever they exist, in the West Bank, so-called, or in Gaza, if they remain there, will be non-sovereign. Wales is non-sovereign. Scotland is non-sovereign. There are many nations which are non-sovereign, and there will be no Palestinian state, but I'm happy to discuss the matter 50 years from now when we get over exactly what they did to us on October 7th.